Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. This one's going to be a little different than what we've done in the past. I mean, I guess, yes, it is another quarterback rank, but it's not a ranking video. We're not going through 1 through 10 and ranking a bunch of different quarterbacks. We are going to be going over each and every NFL team's Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. This video will be dedicated to the AFC. The NFC's video will be coming out sometime next week, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to stay tuned for that one. While you're down there as well, make sure to check out all the links down in the description below. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure to subscribe to the Apple Podcast, Spotify accounts, as well as the YouTube podcast channel. It won't hurt you. And if you like the video up to this point, give it a thumbs up. And I'll remind you to do that at the end of the video as well. But again, like I said before, this video will be going over every single NFL team's Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. With a twist, though. With a twist. I didn't want to do their entire history because if I'm being honest, that was a little bit easy. Like if you look at some of the teams like the Green Bay Packers, they're not involved in this video, but if you look through the history of the Green Bay Packers, you got some of the greatest quarterbacks throughout the history of the entire NFL. But if you dumb it down to the 21st century, it makes it a little bit more difficult to find those Mount Rushmore quarterbacks. So obviously you got Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre in that category, but who are you going to have to fill in those other two heads on Mount Rushmore? Like, you could do that with the entire history of a franchise, but with this situation, I want to just focus here, and you get some really funny names with this, or some repeating quarterbacks in here. I just thought this would be fun. I thought this would be a little fun experiment. The NFL schedule got released yesterday, so I thought I'd tack on that, I guess. But I thought, again, this would be fun, and we're going to go everything that we normally do, north, south, east, and west, and we're going to start off, we're going to start off with the AFC North, and we're gonna start off with the Baltimore Ravens. And there's some quarterbacks in this thing that we're gonna barely touch on because you kind of already know they're gonna be in there, like Lamar Jackson. Like, we know he's gonna be in the Mount Rushmore. He's a 2-time MVP, has been to a conference championship with the Baltimore Ravens, one of the greatest dual threat quarterbacks of all time, the greatest athlete at the quarterback position, the most electrifying athlete from the quarterback position. Definitely deserves a spot on this list. The greatest quarterback in Ravens history, depending on who you ask, because they also talk about Joe Flacco. And the thing that separates Lamar and Joe Flacco, is Lamar Jackson a better football player than Joe Flacco? Yes, Lamar Jackson, again, 2-time MVP. Joe Flacco never got that, but he made it to a few conference championship games. He won a freaking Super Bowl, was a Super Bowl MVP, and you can say Lamar's 2 regular season MVPs don't stack up to Joe Flacco's Super Bowl MVP, and I completely understand that. But those two were like guaranteed locks in this list. It's the last two guys that I kind of was trying to differentiate between them. And the two guys I actually ended up settling on were Trent Dilfer and Steve McNair. Now, Steve McNair obviously is more known for his time with the Tennessee Titans, was with the Baltimore Ravens the last 2 seasons of his career, before his body started giving up on him. But as the main season as the starter in Baltimore, the team went 13-3. And when you look at the season prior when they went 6-10, to go from 6-10 to 13-3, that's the best turnaround in franchise history. And Steve McNair was a massive part in that. Yes, they still had great players on the defensive side of the ball, but Steve McNair was a very, very good quarterback for the Ravens. And again, started all 16 games of that season. So yeah, Steve McNair was the one I struggled with a little bit more because great quarterback. We'll talk about him a little bit with another organization, but Trent Dilfer was an interesting one because he's only with the organization for 1 year, and he barely fits into this category because he started in the 2000 season, the quarterback of the 2000 Ravens that went on to dominate the NFL, dominate the Super Bowl against the New York Giants. And Trent Dilfer, unlike the other quarterbacks in this list, was probably this sounds so mean, he was probably the least important quarterback out of these Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in at least recent NFL history. I mean, he only started 8 games that season. This is a Ravens team that didn't score a touchdown for 5 consecutive weeks. Now, that was when Tony Banks was the starter. Trent Dilfer came in and was the starter there, but he made some good plays throughout the Ravens playoff run. Again, most of their success, if not all of their success, was predicated on a great defense spearheaded by Ray Lewis. You had Rod Woodson in there, Tony Saragusa in there. You just had a legendary defense. And you had Trent Dilfer, I believe Braden Stokely was on that team if I'm not mistaken, Shannon Sharp, Jamal Lewis. You had good players on there, Jonathan Ogden, but Trent Dilfer was not the main catalyst of that. Again, he only started 8 games that season, but he was the starting quarterback of a team that went on to win the Super Bowl. So his spot in Mount Rushmore, I think, is more than deserved. So again, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco, Trent Dilfer, and Steve McNair. Moving on to the next team in the division, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, another one that's currently still playing the NFL. We've talked about his Super Bowl appearance. He's made 2 AFC championship games, just led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns this last year. Top 4 quarterback in the league, pretty much locked up at this point as that number 3 quarterback in the entire NFL. So his spot was never in question here. Once you look at the Bengals, they have some pretty good quarterbacks throughout their history that aren't included here. Like Ken Anderson was a really good quarterback for them, and Boomer Esiason won a league MVP. Both those two quarterbacks got the Bengals to the Super Bowl as well. But to kick things off here, I'm going to go with the guy that Joe Burrow replaced in Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton, he was a second-round draft pick. He was drafted the same year as A.J. Green, which I always like. I've talked about this before. I always like when teams draft a young quarterback with a young receiver so they can kind of grow together. Did that with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. I like when teams do that with their young quarterbacks. And Andy Dalton was brought in because of the uncertainty surrounding Carson Palmer. And he's on this list as well, so there's no surprises there that Carson Palmer's on this list. But Andy Dalton went and started the season with Palmer like holding out or whatever. He said he was going to retire if they didn't trade him, and he comes in 6-2 record, and they're like, well, we have no reason to not pay him. And then the Raiders gave up a bounty for Carson Palmer, and Hugh Jackson called it the greatest trade in football by getting Carson Palmer in there. I think it was around the time when Al Davis passed away, so getting in Palmer was hopefully something to galvanize the team forward. We'll talk about, I shouldn't be talking too much about the Raiders here. I'm sticking with Andy Dalton here, but Andy Dalton is second in Bengals history in passing yards and was a 3-time Pro Bowler. And the thing that kind of hurts Andy Dalton in this category, I guess not in this category, but like in the grand landscape of the NFL, he never won a playoff game, and in those playoff games that he was a part of, he had 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. So he wasn't really known for like playoff success, but the Bengals up until Joe Burrow weren't really known for playoff success. Like Marvin Lewis had a massive stretch where they didn't even win a playoff game. So it's not just Andy Dalton, it's more of the team that he was involved with. But same goes for Carson Palmer. Never won a playoff game, but if he doesn't get hurt against the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do we know about that Bengals team? Maybe that Bengals team could have gone on and done something. That Steelers team went on to win a Super Bowl. So what if Palmer wasn't hurt in that playoff game? What would their season have ended up looking like? And Carson Palmer, while we're on the topic of him, he was the first quarterback in Bengals history to ever throw for 4,000 yards in a season. He's 4th in franchise history in passing yards, but the way he left, like we insinuated before with him getting traded to the Raiders, was not really the most ideal thing in the world. Like Carson Palmer requested a trade after the team finished 4-12, and there was one of his friends that came out and stated that Carson will never step foot in Paul Brown Stadium again. He has $80 million. This is, I guess I'm talking about for Carson. I have $80 million in the bank. Palmer also reportedly said, I don't have to play football for money. I play it for the love of the game, but that would have to be elsewhere. Because of the lack of success that this is from his agent, that Carson and the Bengals have experienced together, Carson strongly feels that a separation between him and the Bengals would be the best interest of both parties. And Mike Brown, the owner of Cincinnati Bengals, he came out and fired right back at Carson and his agent.
I honestly like Carson Palmer. He was a splendid player for us. He's a good person. I wish him well. And he is retired. That was his choice.
Mike, do you think you don't think he'll ever be back? You've given up on that. Are you content?
I'm not expecting him to be back.
You're content to just leave it at that, not get something out of it if you can?
Carson signed a contract. He made a commitment. He gave his word. We relied on his word. We relied on his commitment. We expected him to perform here. If he's going to walk away from his commitment, we aren't going to reward him for doing it.
They placed him on the reserved list, and then ultimately, again, let me talk about Andy Dalton, the 6-2 start to next season. They ended up trading him to the Raiders, and again, the greatest trade in football to go into the Raiders. And Palmer, I gotta settle down here. We're only sticking with the Cincinnati Bengals here, but Carson Palmer's on this list, and the guy that he replaced was just a line. So Joe Burrow replaced Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton replaced Carson Palmer. The next one on here, we got John Kitna, who started every single game Carson Palmer's rookie year. They did like the Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith thing, where they just let the rookie quarterback sit under an NFL vet for a year before taking the full reins of the offense. But John Kitna, he did throw for 3,500 yards and 26 touchdowns. In that, yes, he did have 15 interceptions, but in that season when Carson Palmer was learning under him, he did put up very solid numbers for the team. And he was the starter for 3 seasons in Cincinnati. Like we brought before with the Carson Palmer injury, he was the quarterback that went into the game against the Steelers. 2 interceptions and a fumble ultimately sealed the game. It wasn't the greatest end to his time, because he ended up going to Dallas after that, or Detroit. I can't remember which one followed the other. He either went to Dallas or Detroit directly after that. They played for both teams, but I don't remember which one was directly after. We also have like AJ McCarron was in this category. Achilles Smith, maybe. No, I mean, Achilles Smith got a 9 on the Wonderlic test. A 9. Like, it's just fun. Like, we got to mention some fun quarterbacks in here, but that's the Mount Rushmore for Cincinnati. For Cleveland, this one's rough. Like, we could have been saved if we did the all-time thing. We get Bernie Kosar in there. We get Otto Graham in there. This would have made it a whole hell of a lot easier. But no, the best quarterback on this list, and I'm not exaggerating here, is the guy they ran out of town for Deshaun Watson, is Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield was the first overall pick in 2018, got the Browns their first playoff, or led the Browns their first playoff win since 1994, beat the crap out of the Pittsburgh Steelers in that playoff game. Had he not tried to play through injury, his time in Cleveland could have been much longer. But I think there's a lot of Browns, it's probably getting annoying at this point, but it's like, man, watching Baker do what he did in Tampa, following like getting thrown into exile in Carolina, getting cut, going to the Rams, and then turning that around to signing a $100 million contract and a division titles and all that stuff in Tampa. Like, you feel good for Baker. I'm happy for Baker Mayfield. I'm excited to see what he does throughout the rest of his career down in Tampa or wherever the hell else his career leads him to that point. But in Cleveland, had some ups, had some downs, tried to play through injury, and ultimately it hurt him in the end, or mostly hurt the Browns. It didn't hurt him. He's doing fairly well for himself. And the Browns, they're struggling. We've already talked about their insane quarterback room. So, yeah, some interesting stuff there, but Baker's definitely on here. Tim Couch has to be on here. I know Tim Couch wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time, but he was the first overall pick and was the first selection for the new Browns. I know that didn't come in the 2000s, but he got drafted first overall in 1999, but he did play in the 2000s. He does have two 50-plus Hail Mary touchdown passes to his name as well. So if for anything, at least he's good at Hail Mary passes. And what's interesting, he's the only quarterback in NFL history to throw two walk-off touchdown passes of 50 yards or more with 0.00 left on the clock. So Tim Couch, I think, does get a spot on here, but if he were in a normal team, he would not even sniff in this list. But next on this one, we got Derek Anderson, who was a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowler, so we got to give him some credit here. Like, we're not going to find a lot of Pro Bowlers in this Cleveland Browns section. So we got, or did I say Brandon Weeden? I don't know if I said Brandon Weeden or Derek Anderson. I meant Derek Anderson if I said Brandon Weeden. But he was 10-5 as a starter. He had 26 touchdown passes, had 3,700 yards there. And until the Browns had a winning season with Baker Mayfield, that was the last winning season the Browns had up until that point. And that was all the way back in freaking 2006. And then the last one on here that we're going to talk about, this one was a mess. I put Brian Hoyer on here just mostly because he was a local product and the fact that he had to deal with the Johnny Manziel circus. And I know there's been some reports about like Johnny didn't feel like the quarterback room was a home for him because Brian Hoyer was like, this is my time to be a franchise quarterback or at least be a starter in the NFL. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm playing for my hometown team. And Brian Hoyer, he was nothing special. But again, we're dealing with the Cleveland Browns here. We don't really have a lot of great options to put on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. Like the other options you could really have are Johnny Manziel. You have Brady Quinn. You have Colt McCoy, Kelly Holcomb, Jake Delhomme, Jeff Garcia, Josh McCown. I sure as hell am not putting Deshaun Watson on there. Like, there's just not a lot of great quarterbacks to really choose from in this category. Like, Deshaun Kaiser was the second ever quarterback to go 0-16 in NFL history. Like, it was the Detroit Lions before them, and now it's the Cleveland Browns, and Deshaun Kaiser started, I think, 15, 16 games in that season. So, maybe he deserves an honorable mention, but I want to throw Brian Hoyer on here. So we got Baker, Tim Couch, Derek Anderson, and Brian Hoyer for our Cleveland Browns section. The Pittsburgh Steelers, this is one of the teams that had one guy for an extended period of time, and that was Ben Roethlisberger. 2 Super Bowl championships to his name, as well as putting forth one of the best rookie season in NFL history. I think he went 13-1 as a starter throughout his rookie season, but consistently one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That 2004 draft class was just spectacular. You got Ben, you got Eli, you got Phillip Rivers, JP. Like, you had such a great quarterback class that year. Then Ben Roethlisberger, which I don't know, like there's a lot of arguments you could make for all four of those guys being the best quarterback in that draft class, but Ben's got a very good shot in there. But the guys he replaced are also on this list. Cordell Stewart's one of them. One of my favorite quarterbacks growing up. Slash. Like, that is the coolest nickname ever. He's a quarterback slash running back slash receiver slash returner. Like, that's the coolest name ever. And Cordell Stewart, ironically, was the first rookie quarterback to ever take snaps at Super Bowl. Now, that doesn't matter because that was back in 1995. We're not counting that here. Only thing we are counting here is the 2000s, the 21st century. He did make a Pro Bowl in the 2000s, making one in 2001. He always had a good arm. He was a great athlete in there as well. And he lost his job to Tommy Maddox, who is one of the better stories in the NFL. He was a first-round draft pick back in 1989 to try and eventually replace John Elway. I say 1992, sorry. But still, the main thing's the main thing. He was drafted to eventually replace John Elway. John Elway kept playing. Tommy Maddox never got a chance to actually go in and play for Denver and kind of kind of was just lost for a little bit. He had to go to the LA Express and the XFL, but that really revived his career, and he came into Pittsburgh with Cordell Stewart in there, who eventually lost the job to him and wound up winning Comeback Player of the Year in 2002. Like, going from a first-round draft pick to out of the NFL to playing the XFL to back in the NFL as a starter, winning Comeback Player of the Year, that's a damn good story. And he was eventually replaced by Ben Roethlisberger. He went 6-10 his last year as a starter, but Tommy Maddox is a good story for the early stages of the 2000s. And the last one on here, I did struggle with this one, but I went with Charlie Batch. Kind of the same story with, not to the exact extent as Brian Hoyer, but he is a Pittsburgh local. But unlike Brian Hoyer, he played for the Steelers for so many years. Like, yes, I know he wasn't the guaranteed starter, wasn't a guy that was constantly going in there, but playing for the same team for 8 years and knowing your role, like, you look at someone like Don Strock down with the Miami Dolphins with Bob Greasy and Dan Marino, like, those are the guys that people really love to see. Like, you love those kind of guys, just want to be a part of the team. Like, it's not about them. We wanted to just build this team together. And though he wasn't though he wasn't the guaranteed star, though he was the backup in Pittsburgh, he was the first Pittsburgh quarterback, first Pittsburgh native to start a game for the Steelers since 1969. So he does have that to his name. He started 9 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers across those 8 seasons. So I would say Charlie Batch was a successful quarterback with the Steelers, though he barely played because he knew his role. He's a Pittsburgh local. Like, people love him. That's what you want to see. So that's my Mount Rushmore for Pittsburgh: Ben Roethlisberger, Cordell Stewart, Tommy Maddox, and Charlie Batch. Mason Rudolph might have been on this list. You have also Russell Wilson. You also got Justin Fields, maybe Aaron Rodgers. Like, there's some other options in there, but I think those are the main guys there. And moving on to the next divisions, we go north-south. We got the AFC South. We are going to the Houston Texans. We're going to start off this thing with CJ Stroud. He is a young player, has won Rookie of the Year pretty much unanimously. If not for Puka Nacua, he would have had a unanimous Rookie of the Year. One of the greatest rookie seasons we've seen. Got them a division title. Got them past because Joe Flacco really helped in that category in regards to beating the Browns the first round, but they got to the divisional round of the playoffs. Like, to go from a team that was expected to give the Cardinals the first overall pick or the second overall pick, either way, to go on to not only win a division title but win a playoff game, that's what you love to see, and CJ Stroud is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And the next one on this list is not one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and that's Deshaun Watson. Say whatever you want about him in Cleveland, but as a football player in Houston, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Led the league in passing yards one of his times in Houston. Battled some injuries, battled some off-the-field issues as well. And Deshaun Watson, when he was actually on, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I remember his playoff game against the Buffalo Bills where he threw on the Superman cape and made some ridiculous plays to get the Texans over the line in overtime. Like, it sucked, but Deshaun Watson back in the day was good. But kids right now, if they don't remember that Deshaun Watson in Houston, all they know is the one that sucks ass in Cleveland. Like, the flip around from what we saw in Houston to Cleveland is ridiculous. And the end of his time in Houston, I don't know what, like, I don't even know how to attack that. Like, the way we viewed Deshaun Watson at that point as the football player and the person to what transpired at the end of his time in Cleveland to what we think now, it's a complete 180 from each other. And I don't know how to explain it. I'm not even going to attempt to explain it, but Deshaun Watson definitely is in the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks for Houston Texans. You also got Matt Schaub in here as well. Traded from the Atlanta Falcons. Was the backup to Mike Vick for a couple years. Like, Matt Schaub, not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he was always a solid option. Had Andre Johnson at wide receiver. Like, they were a very solid 1-2 punch. Andre Johnson, obviously a Hall of Famer. Matt Schaub nowhere near that, but was a solid quarterback in Houston for a time being. Like, in 2009, he led the league in yards, attempts, and completions. So, like, he was a good quarterback. He was good. And then the last one on here, much like Tim Couch, I'm going to go David Carr. The first overall pick in 2002, was the first player for the Houston Texans. This dude got killed. He's out of the busts in NFL history, for ones that didn't really battle injuries to see their ways out of the league, David Carr is one where I feel kind of bad for. Like, the dude got sacked 76 times in his rookie season. 76 times. That is unheard. That is ridiculous numbers. They didn't even try to help the dude out there. But despite getting sacked 76 times his rookie season, he started 16 games 4 out of the 5 seasons he was in Houston. So that's commendable. He wasn't very good, no. But the getting sacked 76 times and still going out there every single game to try and play football is impressive. So I'll throw him on there. So we got CJ Stroud, Deshaun, Matt Schaub, and David Carr. TJ Yates was one I actually thought about here as well as Ryan Fitzpatrick and Davis Mills, because Davis Mills was the quarterback for the team that got the second overall picks. They took CJ Stroud instead of Bryce Young. Like, there's a couple others in there, but those are the main guys there. Next one on here is the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck. It sucks that he's still not playing for Indianapolis because he was such a good quarterback. Such a good quarterback. AFC Championship game appearance, helping turn a team that was 2-14 the year before he got there to an 11-5 team that made the playoffs. That's so impressive. And if he just didn't keep getting hurt, he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league because he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he played. Obviously, he had that game against Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. It just sucks. It sucks to see where Andrew Luck's career ended up going. But next one on here is one of the more obvious ones on here. Peyton Manning. I'm not going to really say anything about Peyton Manning. You know about Peyton Manning. We all the top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Super Bowl champion. We don't need to talk about Peyton Manning. Numerous MVP awards. The Sheriff. It's Peyton Manning. I don't need to discuss Peyton Manning. And the next one I got on here is Jacoby Brissett, who ultimately replaced Andrew Luck. And I want to commend Jacoby Brissett for how he handled that situation. Like, I know there was like, oh, he retired on the sideline and everything. But apparently Andrew Luck told them before, and it just blew up while they were in that preseason game. And Jacoby Brissett took that, knowing everybody wanted Andrew Luck there, and knowing everybody loved Andrew Luck in Indianapolis, to go out there and still perform well. I'm not going to sit here and act like he was the greatest quarterback of all time or is even comparable to Andrew Luck, but he did a solid job while as the starting quarterback for Indianapolis. Like, he started 15 games. He started 15 games both seasons. He was the main starter there. And this is a good thing here. He threw more touchdowns than interceptions. I think that's positive. And the last one on here is Phillip Rivers. He was only there for 1 year, but the Colts went to the playoffs that year. Yes, they lost to the Buffalo Bills, which was fantastic. I appreciate that. But Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis, it didn't start off the greatest. No, they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars the first week of the season. They ended up going on to win one game that season. And Phillip Rivers, throughout the course of that season, put up fairly solid numbers for a good Colts team. And if you look at the other quarterbacks the Colts had for like those rentals, you look at Carson Wentz, you look at Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers absolutely shits on them. So he comes in at this last spot. And you could also maybe throw in Curtis Painter, because he was the starting quarterback for the team that did go 2-14 so they could get Andrew Luck. So maybe you could throw him on there. But yeah, I think that's my Mount Rushmore for the Colts. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Jacoby Brissett, and Phillip Rivers. No, not in any particular order. I'm not ranking Andrew Luck above Peyton Manning. I just want to clarify that. But that's my Mount Rushmore for Colts. Then you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars on here. Not a great history of quarterbacks. Like, Trevor Lawrence is on here, who was once, I believe, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, top 5 highest paid quarterback in the league right now. We're waiting. We're just sitting here anxiously waiting to see the quarterback that we were promised when he was drafted first overall by the Jaguars back in 2021. We are just sitting here okay, when's he going to fully unlock now? He's had really good moments. He's battled some injuries in there. He has had some costly turnovers throughout his time in the NFL as well, but you can see the potential, but it's dude, we need to see it actually for an extended period of time. We know you're good. Just show us that you're great. Remember when we watched him against Alabama in the national championship game as a freshman? Where's that guy at? We've seen blips, but I want to see it consistently appear there. Now with Travis Hunter coming in, pairing with Brian Thomas, with Liam Cohen coming in, maybe this unlocks Trevor Lawrence to the fullest. But he comes in on here. Blake Bortles, nowhere near the talent of Trevor Lawrence, but was a 3rd overall draft pick in the NFL draft. Got the Jacksonville Jaguars to win. I say got. Was the starting quarterback for the team that went to the AFC Championship game. Was one game, a couple of calls away from the Jaguars going to the Super Bowl to play Nick Foles in the Philadelphia Eagles. The guy who eventually replaced Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. That would have been so funny to see an Eagles-Jaguars Super Bowl, knowing Blake Bortles, of all quarterbacks, played in the Super Bowl. Blake Bortles seems like a cool dude. That's about all I could say from him. He wasn't a great quarterback throughout his time in Jacksonville. He was a very... I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. He was just there. He wasn't bad. He wasn't horrific. If you're a good team and have a horrific quarterback, you don't go to the AFC Championship game. It's just not possible. He wasn't a horrific quarterback. He wasn't a good quarterback. He was just somewhere in the middle. He was just a okay quarterback. And that was good enough for them because they had an elite defense and had some decent players on offense. It worked out. But yeah, he comes in on here. Then we got David Garrard. This is a guy who made a Pro Bowl in 2009. He threw for 3,500 yards twice in his career in Jacksonville. And he was a pretty solid dual threat quarterback. I can't really add anything more than that. He wasn't anything spectacular, but he was a solid quarterback throughout his time in Jacksonville. And the last guy on here is Mark Brunell. Another guy that I really liked watching growing up. They had to trade for him. He was with the Green Bay Packers. He was with Brett Favre, and he took what he learned from Brett Favre down to Jacksonville. decently mobile quarterback in there, left-handed quarterback. Like, if you look at his career in the 2000s versus the 90s, yes, the 90s were vastly superior to what he did in the 2000s. I mean, he led the league in passing yards one year, was a 3-time Pro Bowler, went to 2 AFC Championship games, but he still was a good quarterback for the early portion of the 2000s for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so he still does enough to make this list. And I mean, if you want to throw like Gardner Minshew for fun, or Byron Leftwich in there, or Chad Henne even, that's fine. But I think Mark Brunell, though, again, his 2000s time was not as good as his 90s, I still think he deserves a spot in here. So we got Trevor Lawrence, Blake Bortles, David Garrard, and Mark Brunell. And the final team here in the AFC South is the Tennessee Titans. No, we're not throwing Cam Ward in here already. We're not throwing him in on here already, but he is the heir to Steve McNair. At least that's what they're hoping, and Steve McNair comes in on this list very comfortably. This is a guy that was a co-MVP with Peyton Manning back in 2003. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler as well. Like, Steve McNair was one of the best quarterbacks when I was growing up. Steve McNair was freaking awesome. He was so much fun. Had a good arm, was a great athlete in there as well, but just got beat up throughout his time in the NFL. His body just failed him when he was with Baltimore, like we talked about before. But Steve McNair, if not Warren Moon, Steve McNair is the greatest quarterback in Tennessee Titans history. Okay, if we're talking about the Titans in general and excluding the Oilers, I know they're the same thing, but if we're excluding the Oilers, Steve McNair is the greatest quarterback in franchise history. If we're just talking about the team that played in Tennessee, and he was the quarterback for a team that was in Houston. He was the quarterback that was a part of the Tennessee Oilers. Like, he was the transition quarterback and did great in that category. Obviously went to the Super Bowl in the 90s against the St. Louis Rams, where they were a yard away from a Super Bowl title. But Steve McNair, awesome. Definitely made this spot in this list. The next ones, though, are a little bit more interesting. I do have Marcus Mariota on this list. Was a second overall pick, and he had a touchdown to himself in a playoff game against Kansas City Chiefs, but it was always like, we're waiting for Mariota to finally take off. Like, you'd have little spurts where you're like, okay, this guy's going to be good, and we just never get a fully sustained thing. And he ended up getting replaced by another guy on this list, Ryan Tannehill, who helped get the Titans to the AFC Championship game. I say get, again, I got to be careful with how I'm wording this, because Derrick Henry literally threw Ryan Tannehill and the rest of the Tennessee Titans on his back and carried them to the AFC Championship game. Yes, they ended up losing the game, but Ryan Tannehill had like a career resurgence with the Tennessee Titans. We'll talk about what he did potentially with the Miami Dolphins later on, but he had a nice little career resurgence there. He's brought in as the backup to Mariota, but when Mariota lost the job, Tannehill took it and never really looked like giving it back. Like, he turned into a Pro Bowler. He was the comeback player of the year. Like, Ryan Tannehill had very good success in Tennessee. And then this last one that I've got on here, I flipped back and forth a couple times, but I did end up going Vince Young. Was the 3rd overall pick in the draft back in 2006, and this one's so weird. Like, Jeff Fisher brought in Matt Leinert's offensive coordinator, Norm Chow, to Tennessee to be the offensive coordinator there. Jeff Fisher himself is a USC Trojan. Like, you would think, like, with those connections in there, they would draft Matt Leinart with the 3rd overall pick. But you have to remember, Bud Adams, big Texas guy. And there was an expectation that Houston would select Vince Young, the local product, with the 1st overall pick. So if it went that way, we would have talked about Vince Young going number 1, Reggie Bush 2, Matt Leinart 3, and we don't know where Mario Williams goes at that point. But I think we can all agree that Houston Texans made the correct pick by picking Mario Williams. But Vince Young had his moments with the Tennessee Titans, as we've talked about before, a 99-yard drive in there. He made a couple Pro Bowls, the Rookie of the Year as well. Like, he had moments, but it, again, just a constant theme with these Titans quarterbacks. We just we're waiting. Or a constant theme with a couple quarterbacks we talked about. Like, we were just waiting for, like, him to finally break through. We never did. And he was a good at best quarterback with the Titans, and battled some stuff out with Kerry Collins while I was there as well, who was in the honorable mention section. We could definitely throw it on here. You just got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Matt Hasselbeck you could also talk about, but that is my Mount Rushmore for the Tennessee Titans. So again, Steve McNair, Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota, and Vince Young. Moving on to the AFC East, one of the easiest ones to start off, Josh Allen. Again, Josh Allen's going to own literally every single Bills statistical record by the time he's done it. I'm even including rushing touchdowns, rushing yards in there. Like, I don't know if I'd go rushing yards in total, but he's moving up the list. He's only a few yards away from moving up to 4th in the Bills' all-time rushing chart. He has 4 of the top 5 single-season best passing records with the Buffalo Bills. Like, he's just going to own every single Bills passing category, and you can make a strong case that he's already the greatest quarterback in Bills history. Yes, I know Jim Kelly went to 4 Super Bowls, but Josh Allen, just from what he's doing in Buffalo, it's truly spectacular. Won an MVP in there, has gone to a couple conference championship games again. Like, we need to get through and punch through. But Josh Allen, yeah, definitely the greatest quarterback in the 21st century for the Bills. Ryan Fitzpatrick is another one on here. Again, this isn't in order or anything, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, he made the drought fun. Like, yes, he had some frustrating moments in there, signed a big 6-year contract with the Bills and didn't really, like, punch through that category, but he was so much fun. Like, I think every Bills fan has the love and respect for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he played for a bunch of different teams throughout his NFL career, but he always points to Buffalo being his home team, or the team he resonates with the most, and I respect him for that. Like, he had 3 straight 3,000 plus yard seasons. My dad grew out his beard so because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Bills, they beat the Patriots. Like, they beat the Patriots. Now, that season that one kind of hurt. Started 4-2. You beat the Patriots. You finished 6-10. That's not great, but that just encapsulates the Bills of that time. But the next one here is the guy who broke the drought, was the quarterback for the team that ended up breaking the drought. It's Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is awesome. I love Tyrod Taylor. Throws one of the prettiest deep balls in NFL history. He doesn't have like an absolute hose for an arm or a cannon or anything, but he always timed that deep ball up to perfection. It was a perfect spiral every single time. Good athlete as well. Great person from all things considered. I love Tyrod Taylor, but he was very limited in what he could do in regards to the stealing for the team, and correctly made the move to draft Josh Allen, because look at where Josh Allen's taken the Bills and what Josh Allen has done throughout his time in the NFL. Like, Tyrod Taylor, again, love and respect for Tyrod Taylor. That Jaguars playoff game was rough to watch, but I loved Tyrod Taylor. Always carried himself top notch. And yeah, definitely deserves a spot in this list. And the last one on here is Drew Bledsoe. So we talked about Josh Allen having 4 of the 5 top passing seasons in Bills history. Drew Bledsoe is one of those guys he's the one that breaks that up. Like, his first year in Buffalo, 4,300 yards, 24 touchdowns. Like, the move from getting him from the Patriots, because obviously he got hurt, Tom Brady took the job and everything. Drew Bledsoe coming, it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Drew Bledsoe is here in Buffalo. They got a franchise quarterback to finally get the guy from Jim Kelly, because they had the carousel of Doug Flutie and Rob Johnson in there. Like, getting Bledsoe was awesome. Former number 1 overall pick, once the highest paid player in the NFL. Crap, I had other things in there. Oh my God, I don't remember what all I was gonna say. I blanked. But he ushered in the new navy blue jerseys. He was the first quarterback with the navy blue jersey. You can see that was a downward spiral right there. If they had the royal blue jerseys when he first got there, then maybe he would have been fine. Because he had that great season his first year, never really lived up to the hype after that. Eventually got replaced by JP Lossman. Did not really mince words when he left. Went to the Cowboys, was like, well, now I get my kids to wear stuff and get that other team stuff out of there. So yeah, not the greatest way to leave, but my second ever jersey that I got. Drew Bledsoe was the second jersey I ever got as a kid. So I have a fond memories of Drew Bledsoe, but just in that era of Bills football, wasn't great, but Drew Bledsoe, the 4,000 yard season, that was fun. And they beat the Patriots as well, so that was also fun to see. But that's the Bills, Mount Rushmore: Josh Allen, Tyrod, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Drew Bledsoe. Then we got the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to throw Tua in there already. Tua has led the league in passing yards. He's led the league in completion percentage as well. Like, he's battled injuries here and there, but Tua has been a solid quarterback in the NFL. He's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now, which is, hey, I'm perfectly cool with it. That's fine with me. Pay him all the money you want. He's beaten the Bills one time. I'm cool with it. But yeah, Tua's definitely on this list. Ryan Tannehill, we got a repeat in here. Ryan Tannehill, again, we talked about like we were waiting for him to punch through. Like, Ryan Tannehill was like, okay, this guy's good. This guy is good. He was the 8th overall pick in the draft, and we were just constantly sitting there waiting for Tannehill to finally punch through. Like, he had a 4,000-yard season when he was with Miami. Like, he had 2 4,000-yard seasons with Miami. He was the first quarterback drafted in the first round by the Dolphins. Dan Marino in +83. He was the 3rd quarterback in Miami Dolphins history to get drafted in the first round. Again, we got Tua in there as well, but Ryan Tannehill going from 2011 to all the way back to 83. Hey, Ryan, they thought they could do something with Ryan Tannehill. There were moments where it looked like, oh yes, he's going to be the guy long term. And ultimately they ended up trading to Tennessee. But the next one on here for the Dolphins, I've got Chad Pennington. He was only there for like 3 seasons. He left the Jets, had a bunch of injuries with the New York Jets and stuff, and he battled some injuries with the Dolphins as well. But Chad Pennington, he finished second in the MVP race, went in his first season with Miami. They won the division. Yes, Tom Brady tore his ACL that first week of the season, but they ended up winning the division. He gets second in MVP voting. He wins NFL Comeback Player of the Year, and he helped turn a team that was 1-11 the season prior to an 11-5 team. Like, Chad Pennington is not the greatest quarterback of all time, but Chad Pennington is a really resilient dude. I mean, he had 4 shoulder surgeries throughout his NFL career. He had shoulder surgery in 2005 to repair his right shoulder. He injured the same shoulder in week 3 of that season. Like, Chad Pennington's just a resilient dude, won a couple comeback player of the years. We'll talk about the other one here in a little bit because, yes, spoiler, he is on another team in here. But Chad Pennington might not have been in there for a long time, but he made it count. He made it count and deserves a spot on this list. And the last one on here is Ryan Fitzpatrick, another guy, another repeat that we've got on here. Ryan Fitzpatrick was the starting quarterback for the Tank for Tua team. And if you look at that start of that season, the Dolphins that season, the Dolphins started the season getting outscored 163 to 26. That was their point margin in the first 4 weeks of the season. So the fact they were able to win 5 games that year is ridiculous and a testament to Brian Flores and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, he led the Dolphins in rushing yards that year. Like, he might not have been like Superman for the Miami Dolphins, but he's pretty damn close given how bad that team was on paper. The fact they won 5 games was a miracle within itself. And the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick at 80 years old led the team in rushing yards, yeah, he deserves a spot on this list as well. I mean, yes, you have Dante Culpepper, Chad Henne, Jay Cutler. I mean, Dante Culpepper probably hurts because they didn't sign Drew Brees. They signed Dante Culpepper. So that one probably hurts a little bit. But that's my Miami Dolphins ones. We got Tua, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chad Pennington, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. The next one on here, we have the New England Patriots, Tom Brady. Don't want to talk about him. I'm not talking about Tom Brady. Guy caused me too much damn pain. Tom Brady. This is the only thing I'm going to say about it. Tom Brady has more Super Bowl MVPs than he does losses against my team. I'm not talking about him on here. But the next one, I'm not talking about him, but the guy we'll talk about, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Hello, editing Logan here. I don't know what happened with that. I think I just had a brain fart or something. I was trying to justify why Jimmy Garoppolo was in there, and I don't really know why. Like, Drew Bledsoe may have only not have been the same quarterback that he was in the 2000s as he was in the 90s. I mean, he only played a season and 2 games in the 2000s, but Jimmy Garoppolo started 2 games with the New England Patriots. Yes, he was considered to be the best backup in the NFL during that time, but Drew Bledsoe still put up a decent amount of numbers in this one real season as a starter. Yes, the Patriots finished 5-11, but he had like 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions or something like that. He had over 3,000 yards passing. Like, he was still a solid quarterback. He still fetched a first-round draft pick from Buffalo. So I don't know what my thought process was in it. And he gave the Patriots the most significant moment in their entire franchise existence by getting injured against the Jets, which led to Tom Brady going in. So I don't know what I was doing. But, yeah, Drew Bledsoe is on this list. I don't know why he wasn't to begin with.
So the next one on here is Mac Jones. Mac Jones got screwed. I mean, if you have a second-year quarterback and you're going to put him with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as co-offensive coordinators and are surprised he stinks, that's on you. I can't help you with that. Like, do I think Mac Jones was a top 100 player in the NFL his rookie year? Not a chance in hell. Do I think he was a Pro Bowler? Not a chance in hell. But he was the quarterback for a team that got the Patriots back to the playoffs, replaced Cam Newton, started every single game that season. And yes, the back part of his Patriots career sucked ass, but that first year, he was a solid quarterback. So I'm going to put him on here as well. And then Matt Castle is the last one on here. So again, we don't have a lot of extended time looking at any of these quarterbacks. Drake May will probably be on here next year. Like, that's how little we have to go with these Patriots quarterbacks. Tom Brady was there for freaking ever. He would never leave. He would never leave me alone. So Drake May might be on here next year. But Matt Castle going in when Tom Brady tore his ACL against the Kansas City Chiefs and doing what he did. Yes, the Patriots didn't make the playoffs. Yes, the Patriots did win the division, but they were still an 11-5 football team. They weren't a terrible football team, but this was a team that went 16-0 the year before, so you would have loved to see what they have done with a fully firing squad with a healthy Tom Brady, but Matt Castle filled in really well. Like, he had 192 passing yards in college. To go out and start for the New England Patriots to get them to a winning record and to put up the numbers that he did, that's commendable. And he got a good deal with the Kansas City Chiefs in as well. I'll talk about that trade here in a little bit because that thing is a mess and a half. Like, I don't even know how to really touch on that, but there's another quarterback that we're going to mention here in a little bit that it will be more in depth with that trade, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Matt Castle, like, over 3,600 yards passing that year. Like, I love when people do these style stats. I gotta read this stat out because it's really funny. Like, it's so specific, but I love when people do these kind of things. So here it's, by the end of the 2008 season, Matt Castle had become the first quarterback in NFL history to record at least 10 wins, 325 completions, a 63% completion percentage, 3,600 passing yards, 20 touchdown passes, and 11 or fewer interceptions, and 250 rushing yards in a single season. How oddly specific of numbers are we talking about here? Now, the only other two quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, but still, that is an oddly specific stat line that we're reading out right there. But Matt, that's the top four for the New England Patriots. They're Mount Rushmore. So Brady,
Bledsoe,
Mac Jones, and Matt Castle. And the last team on here is the New York Jets. This one was rough. This one's not great. But Mark Sanchez is the first one here. I mean, 2 AFC championship appearances back-to-back years. Yes, he wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time. And yes, he wasn't the main catalyst for why they went to those spots. But if you look at those playoff runs and see that he had 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions across 6 road games. Like the Jets never, or 4, oh wait, was it 6? Yeah, 6 road games. They never played a home game in the playoffs. Like, the fact that he was able to do that in the playoffs, like stepping up in the playoffs, was pretty big. And yes, wasn't great. Butt fumble. I know all that stuff, but he wasn't as bad as what a lot of people try to make him out to be. And the next quarterback on here, I'm going to throw in Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is the third AFC East team Ryan Fitzpatrick is on, but this was his best statistical year in the NFL, arguably, in regards to passing touchdowns. 31 passing touchdowns a season was the Jets' franchise record. He broke Vinny Testaverde's record for passing touchdowns in a season. He also threw for almost 4,000 yards. They had a 10-6 record in that time frame as well. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick was a good quarterback with the Jets. It was trying to get a contract extension with them. They never gave it to him, and then he continued on his journeyman ways after that. But Ryan Fitzpatrick was a good quarterback for the New York Jets during the 2000s, so he pops in on this list as well. And we brought up this guy before, but Chad Pennington, so we got another repeat. So 2 of the 3 quarterbacks that we brought up for the Jets have been repeats, but Chad Pennington was the 18th overall pick in the 2000 draft. Didn't start in his first 2 years in the league. Vinny Testaverde was, or 2001, sorry. Didn't start his first 2 years in the league. Wait, no. 2000. Yeah, it was 2000. He didn't start his first 2 years in the league just to kind of mature underneath Vinny Testaverde. He'd been around the league forever, and his time with the Jets was riddled with injuries. We already talked about the shoulder surgeries that he had in the same year. We had one in the offseason, then he had one in week 3 against the Jaguars. He only started 16 games once, and that was in 6 years as a starter. He only started more than 10 games 2 other times with that, and he's with the Jets for 6 years. He was with the Jets for 8 years in total, but he was 6 years as the starter with the Jets. So it wasn't like he wasn't having fun. He was battling a shit ton of injuries, but Chad Pennington, everybody loved Chad Pennington with the Jets. He was a Comeback Player of the Year award winner there as well. So he comes in on here. And the last one here is Vinny Testaverde. Like we talked about with Mark Brunell before, his 2000s era was not as good as what we saw in the 90s from Vinny Testaverde. But still, he had some good moments. He bounced back from Achilles injury that he suffered in 99. We had the Monday Night Miracle against the Miami Dolphins. We were down 30-7 going into the 4th. Ended up winning the game 40-37 in overtime. Threw 5 touchdown passes in that game. Like, he still had some good moments, but he did lead the league in interceptions in 2000, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. But he still comes in with one of the spots on the Mount Rushmore. So again, we have Mark Sanchez, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chad Pennington, and Vinny Testaverde. Yes, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. Like, they have some other big name quarterbacks in there, but none that are going to creep into this top 4. And moving on to the next division, the AFC West, the Denver Broncos are starting off here. And I have to start this off with, no, we'll not start off here. We'll start off with Peyton Manning. Super Bowl 50 champion. Yes, the defense carried him that one, but he broke the NFL record for passing yards and touchdowns this season, won another MVP in Denver. After coming off the almost career-ending neck injury, like, to go from that to be doing what he did with Denver with the no-fly zone defense and stuff, like, he was fantastic at Denver. They're still chasing that dragon. They're hoping that Bo Nix is that guy, but the Broncos have had a conveyor belt of different quarterbacks since Peyton Manning. They've just been trying to chase that ever since. And the guy he replaced, which is so funny that Peyton Manning replaced Tim Tebow in Denver, is so funny. Like, Tim Tebow is one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in NFL history. Like, depending on who you ask, Tim Tebow could have been awesome or absolute dog shit. And I'm somewhere in the middle, but I'm definitely closer to the dog shit category. Like, he throughout his career, in 14 games as a starter, he failed to complete more than 50% of his passes. In 14 games as a starter, he failed to complete more than 50% of his passes. That is ridiculous. And they had the whole Tebowing thing and stuff like that. We had the whole, like, the come from behind victories and stuff like that. Like, he was a fun player. You wanted to root for him, but he was just not very good. And Josh McDaniels traded up to get him in the first round. And Josh McDaniels even told us, like, it's a good draft pick. It's a good draft pick. And Tim Tebow he just wasn't a good NFL quarterback. He just wasn't. Like, he had the famous throw to Demaryius Thomas in the playoff game against Pittsburgh. Apart from that, It's better off that, but he still comes in on this list because the Broncos have not had the greatest quarterback history of the 21st century. Again, like we talked about after Peyton Manning, it has not been great. So Tim Tebow still comes on here, and I think a lot of people would probably say, yeah, he probably deserves a spot on here. But if we're doing all time, not even close. But in this category, yes, he's on. He's number 4 on this list because the next one on here is Jay Cutler. And this is the guy I want to talk about earlier when I was talking about Matt Castle, because Jay Cutler, he was with Mike Shanahan, and he was looking like he was going to become one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Mike Shanahan gets fired. Josh McDaniels' dickhead ass comes in and trades Jay Cutler to the Chicago Bears. But that's not where it really started. Apparently, he was trying to involve Jay Cutler in a 3-team trade involving the Patriots, the Broncos, and either the Buccaneers or the Lions. So Jay Cutler may have very well wound up with the Buccaneers or Lions, and that would have sent Matt Castle, who was Josh McDaniels' quarterback in New England, to the Denver Broncos. And Jay Cutler heard word of this. It was like, what the hell are you doing? Why would I get traded? I'm one of the better young quarterbacks in the NFL. Why would I get traded? Josh McDaniels like, well, no, you're not getting traded. No. So Jay Cutler's like, dude, trade me now. So they traded him to the Chicago Bears. They got Kyle Orton in there. But Jay Cutler, man, if he just stayed, Mike Shanahan was like, do not change this offense. Do not change this. It got a good thing going right now. Jay Cutler's been playing well. Just keep building on that. And they got rid of Jay Cutler. They brought in Kyle Orton. They drafted Tim Tebow, which led them to getting Peyton Manning. So I guess it all worked out in the end, right? And then the final quarterback on here is Jake the Snake Plummer, who did not really have the greatest relationship with Mike Shanahan. Got benched after a 7-2 start to the season. Cutler went in. He never felt like he got the full reason behind that. But if you look at it and go, you have 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. That's not great. But as a starter in Denver, he had the best winning percentage in Denver until Peyton Manning got there. He had like 40 wins and 17 losses or something like that. And he also had a 499-yard passing performance. Like Jake Plummer was a very nonchalant individual, but he was not a bad quarterback. He was just okay. No one really has anything too crazy to say about Jake Plummer, but yeah, he comes on the final spot of this Mount Rushmore list, and that's Peyton Manning, Tim Tebow, Jay Cutler, and Jake the Snake Plummer. And again, you've got some trash quarterbacks following Peyton Manning, so we don't really have a lot to choose from, which is why Tim Tebow's on here. Like, would you realistically have Tim Tebow or Trevor Siemian on here, or Russell Wilson, or Drew Lock, or Brock Osweiler? Like, who would you realistically have on here apart from Tebow? Just given the fact they went to the playoffs and won again. I don't know. Shouldn't involve myself in that. But the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. I'm not going to, again, like Tom Brady, he's caused a lot of pain in my life. I don't want to talk about him. But we got Alex Smith, who I liked Alex Smith. I liked him when he was in San Francisco. I hated the fact that he went to the Chiefs because I never really liked the Chiefs. Being in Iowa, I just never really liked the Chiefs. And Alex Smith played really, really, really well with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler, threw for 4,000 yards in his final season in Kansas City, but it makes sense. I can understand, like, I can understand what they were doing with putting Patrick Mahomes in there, I guess, but like, I would have kept Alex Smith in there personally. I would have kept Alex Smith. I would have kept Alex Smith. Just me. But that's me. You do you, Kansas City. Next one on here is Matt Castle. So we got another repeat in there. Like we talked about before the Jay Cutler trade, he could have very wound up in Denver, but he got to Kansas City. They traded a second-round pick for him. The Patriots ended up drafting Patrick Chung in the deal. Matt Castle was fine in Kansas City. I don't know if I would say he was bad. He definitely wasn't good. But I don't know if I would say he was like dog shit either, or bad. That he did make a Pro Bowl. He did make a Pro Bowl while he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. And in that season, he had 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Like, he had a good season in Kansas City, but the Chiefs just weren't that good. They just weren't a good football team. And the final quarterback on here, I've got Trent Green. Trent Green was he was the quarterback that I grew up with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the main thing I remember from Trent Green is when he got his head taken off against the Cincinnati Bengals when he was in Kansas City. That's the main thing I remember with Trent Green, unfortunately. And he was a two-time Pro Bowler. And yes, he led the league in interception in 2001, but he never had more than 20 after that. And he had 3 4,000-plus yard seasons. He threw for 4,500 yards one season as well. Like, Trent Green was a good quarterback. Him and Tony Gonzalez, they were fun to watch in Kansas City. For me taking my hater glass off, because again, I didn't like the Chiefs back then. This is not just a newfound thing with me. I've never liked the Chiefs. But Trent Green was a good quarterback. He was a good quarterback, but again, that Bengals hit, that's the main thing I remember from Trent Green in his time in Kansas City. The next team on here is the Las Vegas Raiders, but for most of my life, they were the Oakland Raiders, and most of these quarterbacks, surprisingly, are not going to be stemming from the Las Vegas Raiders era, but Derek Carr is on here. If Derek Carr doesn't break his leg against the Indianapolis Colts in 2016, how good are the Raiders? How far do the Raiders go in that playoff run? Because not only did Derek Carr get hurt, Matt McGloin also broke his leg, so he had to throw out Connor Cook against the Houston Texans in the playoffs, and that was never going to work. That was obviously never going to work, but Derek Carr was good in Oakland. That's about all I could say. He wasn't great. He definitely wasn't bad. He wasn't great, though. He was just a middle-of-the-road kind of quarterback. He was the 11th ranked player in the top 100 players in the NFL in 2016, so there's that, but I don't really take a whole lot of stock into the top 100 players list, but hey, he had some success in Oakland. They had some up and down seasons in regards to an organization, but Derek Carr was consistent. He was a second-round draft pick, started every single game his rookie year as a second-round draft pick. Like, he was a good quarterback for the Raiders for that time period. And the next one on here is Rich Gannon. Went to a Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, he threw 5 interceptions in that Super Bowl. I understand that. But he did win an MVP. He was a first-team All-Pro twice in this time frame as well. Like, to go from a guy who was drafted by the New England Patriots and they wanted to move him to safety, receiver, or any other position other than quarterback, to go on to eventually win a league MVP and quarterback a team to the Super Bowl, that's pretty impressive. So again, nice little redemption story from Rich Gannon, but he was a fun quarterback in that early 2000s. I remember my friend Tyler, he had a Rich Gannon, he was a Raiders fan, he had a Rich Gannon jersey. I thought that jersey looked sweet. I don't like the Raiders per se, but the Rich Gannon jersey, I liked the Rich Gannon jersey, but he definitely earned a spot on here. Next one we've got on this list is Carson Palmer. I mean, how could we not throw Carson Palmer in here? This is the greatest trade in football history according to Hugh Jackson. It has to be on here. He has to be on here. And they were hoping that he would help galvanize the team moving forward, but he went 4-5 as a starter his first year in Oakland. They missed the playoffs. They were 8-8, finished third in the division. They had a 3-way tie with the Broncos and Chargers, and he did throw for 4,000 yards in his last season in Oakland again. But he was only there for a season and a half, and then he went on to Arizona, and that's where we saw the real resurgence of Carson Palmer. Like, he wasn't anything great with the Oakland Raiders, but he wasn't bad. It was a bad situation, and the way he left Cincinnati did not bode well for him. You're not in a really great mental space at that point in time with the way you left Cincinnati going to the Raiders and that shit show. And yeah, not great. And then last one on here is Kerry Collins. He was the quarterback in Randy Moss's first season with the Raiders. And Kerry Collins, he was with the New York Giants. He had a few records with the Giants. He was starting quarterback for a team that went to the Super Bowl and stuff. But he signed to the Raiders primarily as a backup to Rich Gannon. But you could see the vision where it's like, okay, probably going to be the backup, but he's going to eventually take the starting job over from Rich Gannon because he's getting older. And Rich Gannon's neck injury sped up the insertion of Kerry Collins in the lineup. Kerry Collins was not good in Oakland. I'm not going to sit here and act like Kerry Collins was a good quarterback. And he had moments throughout his NFL career, like in Tennessee. He was a solid quarterback for a spurt in Tennessee, but he was nothing spectacular in Vegas. Never completed over 60% of his passes in the 2 seasons that he was there in Vegas. Signed a 3-year contract, was only there for 2 years. He fills up the rear in this list. He fills up the rear. But again, we're not really dealing with a lot of great quarterbacks here in the Raiders during this time frame. Like, who else are we really going to consider in here? Tiasapo? Are we going to throw him in this category? Charlie Fry? Are we going to throw him in this category as well? Are we going to throw in freaking, who else can we throw in this category that was awesome for the Raiders? Jamarcus Russell. Can we throw him in there? Who knows? We can throw a lot of quarterbacks in here, but that's my Mount Rushmore for the Raiders. We got Derek Carr, Rich Gannon. We have Kerry Collins, and who was the last guy I said? Why am I blanking on who the last guy I said was? Carson Palmer. Well, I don't know why I was blanking on Carson Palmer, but the last team on here is the Los Angeles Chargers. Phillip Rivers makes he's obviously, I mean, you could make a case. It's either him or Dan Fouts, the greatest quarterback in franchise history, but it's either that Phillip Rivers owns every single statistical record the Chargers have. Every single one, like games played, wins, completions, touchdowns, yards, like every single record you could want for a quarterback for a team is Phillip Rivers. He just didn't have that Super Bowl that was eluding him. Like, I could make a very good case that he was the best quarterback just off of pure quarterbacking in that 2004 draft class, behind J.P. Lossman, obviously, but you could make an argument for that. We're just missing the playoff success. Phillip Rivers was awesome with the Chargers, and I wish he just had that playoff success in there, but he's easily on here. The guy he replaced, Drew Brees, is on here as well. Drew Brees, if he didn't get hurt against the Denver Broncos, Lord knows what the NFL would have looked like. Lord knows what would have happened. Phillip Rivers wouldn't have been on the team anymore. Because they drafted Phillip Rivers because they didn't think Drew Brees would fully develop. And Phillip Rivers' first 2 years in the league were Drew Brees' 2 best seasons with the Chargers. They're like, okay, well, Drew Brees' contract's coming up. Phillip Rivers, what's he going to do? We don't really know. Like, there's so many things that could have gone on in that 04 draft or just the 2 seasons that followed that could have changed the entire course of the NFL history. Like, what if Eli said he would play for the Chargers? Then Big Ben would have played for the Giants. Phillip would have gone to the Steelers. What if Brees never got hurt? Then where would Phillip have gone at that point? Like, there's so many different little things. And LaDainian Tomlinson, he said that if they had Drew Brees as the quarterback in 06, the year LT won the MVP, then the Chargers would have won the Super Bowl because that experience that Brees had would have been big against the New England Patriots in that first round, the divisional round of that playoff game. Phillip Rivers didn't have that. It was his first year as a starter. He didn't have a bad season his rookie year at all. Or his rookie year, his second year in the league, or third year in the league, sorry. But if that experience with Brees, maybe they would have gone on to win a Super Bowl there. And who knows what Brees' legacy would look like. Like, it's just a crazy rabbit hole to get thrown down. But Drew Brees had moments in San Diego. Just wish it. It's so weird because I don't want to say you wish it because Phillip Rivers was so good as well. It's just it's an interesting thing. It's very interesting. And we got Justin Herbert on here as well. Like, he won Rookie of the Year. Yes, he didn't have the greatest playoff game of all time against the Houston Texans. Like, there's some things that Justin Herbert can do that not a lot of quarterbacks can do. I know there's like the social media quarterback thing that's hanging over him, but easily a top 10 quarterback in the league based off talent. You can make a very good argument that's a top 5 quarterback in the league. We're just waiting for some more key moments from Justin Herbert in his career, but he's had a great career up to this point, definitely on this conversation as well. And the final one on here is Doug Flutie. Like, the Chargers they've had really 4 quarterbacks of the 21st century. Yes, Tyrod Taylor was there for a bit. You had Billy Volek. You had Charlie Whitehurst. Like, there were other quarterbacks, but it was really just these 4. And Doug Flutie was the quarterback in 2001 in LaDainian Tomlinson's rookie year. Took over a team that finished 1-15 the season prior with Ryan Leaf. Got him to 5-11. Became the oldest player in NFL history to score a rushing touchdown at 41. Then he became the oldest player to score a touchdown at 42, passing Jerry Rice's record that he broke like 2 weeks prior to that. Like, Doug Flutie was a starter for 1 year, and San Diego was very vital in Drew Brees' mentorship. Drew Brees looked up to Doug Flutie as a quarterback, so it's nice to see that development there. But that's my Chargers Mount Rushmore. So Herbert, Rivers, Brees, and Flutie, and that is my AFC Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks for the 21st century. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any corrections or if you have any quarterbacks that you would change out in the Mount Rushmore, again, this is the 21st century. I don't want to throw in any 90s or 80s guys in here. So if you go like, where's John Elway with the Broncos? Don't worry. He's not included in this category. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time. Make sure again to check out all the links down in the description below. I've been Logan Blackman. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace.